Okay, ready for your questions?
Sir, there's not a mention. There's not a mention of Pharmacare in the whole budget. You want that open up to remarks?
Sure. I'll open up with remarks. How about? So in this budget, we were looking to find ways to help Canadians. They told us they wanted us to work for them, to get to Ottawa and deliver the help that they needed. It's been a tough time for Canadians, and so we did exactly that. We've used our power, and in this budget, we've delivered on dental care, starting with children under 12. We're proud of that. We know that so many Canadians don't have coverage and haven't taken care of their teeth. And when we spoke to a number of people, we've heard their stories and how this would be life-changing for them. We also know that people are struggling with the cost of living, particularly with housing. So another priority of ours in the agreement, we used our power to get more help to Canadians to find a home that they can afford. And we see that reflected in the budget with concrete steps that would not have been there but for the fact that we forced the government to deliver and we used our power to get people this help. We still have critiques and criticisms. We're concerned, deeply concerned about the approach on the environment, particularly the carbon capture, which there's lots of concerns around whether that is effective or not. But the idea of giving more subsidies to fossil fuel companies that are profitable is the wrong approach. We should use public dollars to invest in workers and in just transition, real jobs for workers, as well as investing in clean energy, and that's not there. We also see that with healthcare, we want to see investments in a transfer so that we defend our public healthcare system. So those are critiques as well, and we'll continue to fight for Canadians.
Okay, so you said this is the first test. Didn't pass the test. And what's for?
Well, the budget reflects the priorities that we laid out and the agreement that we have. And so it honored that agreement, and it has really important things that are going to make a big difference in people's lives. The expansion of our public healthcare system with a dental care program is going to be life-changing for a lot of Canadians, and we're proud of that. And we're proud of the investments that we were able to achieve in affordable housing. We still have critiques, and we'll still continue to oppose on the approach in the environment, but it is sufficient for our support to continue.
And just on carbon capture, so they have money in that. You know, we still need oil and gas at this point in time. Is that not a good potential solution?
Well, what we've said is that we shouldn't be giving public dollars to profitable companies. And what they're doing effectively in this budget, the government's increasing those subsidies by about $2.6 billion. That's the wrong thing to do. We think that money would be better used in funding clean energy and supporting workers, in training and retraining. There's lots of better ways to spend that money to really move us forward in terms of fighting the climate crisis. So we think that's the wrong approach. And scientists also have raised a lot of concerns around whether carbon capture works, whether we have the technology sufficient to do that in an effective way. So those are real concerns.
Increase in defense spending.
I feel like I always miss you, so I got to go to you now.
Just briefly, since I asked you about it the other day, and we couldn't talk about it then, increase in defense spending, what do you think? It's $8 billion. It's usually not something your party supports. What do you think?
We've laid out a couple of ways where we strongly support that our forces who do important work for us should have the equipment to do that. And there's been clear gaps identified where our armed forces do not have the equipment to do the work they need to do. So that is something understandable. We also have noted that we live in a world that feels less safe. And so increasing investments to be able to do our part, I think, is important. We would have liked to see money invested in humanitarian aid, money invested more in international development. But we did foresee an increase in spending that makes sense.
Is it not concern for you that in the first gesture after your agreement with the Liberals, there's not explicit reference to Pharmacare in the budget? There's no plan for Pharmacare, which they committed to.
The Pharmacare plan in the agreement was for 2023. So we're still on track. We expect to table legislation, the Pharmacare Act, the Canada Pharmacare Act, and have that passed in 2023, and additional steps to follow, including a bulk purchasing plan as well as a formulary. So we still expect that. That's it within the agreement, and that was envisioned for 2023. We strongly believe that people should not have to worry about the cost of medication, and we've delivered on this as well in our agreement, and we hope to see it as per our agreement in next year's legislative agenda.
It's not a concern, though, that you're not foreseeing any expenses on that front? There's no outlay, there's no cash?
It wasn't something that we envisioned this year. In the agreement, it's for next year. We're going to continue to fight for it. We know that every step of the way, we won't be able to achieve these things unless we push and fight to achieve them, and we're confident we can continue to do that.
the housing stuff was in the Liberal platform. How are you taking a victory lap on that? And besides dental care, what did your so-called power actually achieve in this budget?
Well, first of all, the definition of affordability that the Liberals were currently using it was 80% of median income. That resulted in outcomes that were nowhere near affordable. In Montreal, for example, with that definition, they determined rental of over $2,000 as being affordable. With our definition that we fought for in the agreement, it's transformative because applying our new definition, which is 80% of the average market rate for rent, would reduce the rate in the example I gave in Montreal to $900, $967 to be precise. That is a significant reduction. All the investments that this government is going to make into affordable housing would have resulted in not affordable housing. That definition alone significantly changed the entire outlook of the affordability of homes that are going to be built. In addition, they initially envisioned in their definition only 20% of a build that would be dedicated to affordable housing. Our agreement that we fought for, it makes that 40%. So we've doubled the amount of affordable housing that will be delivered, and we've significantly reduced the cost of that housing. That's real change, concrete change that we fought for and we delivered for Canadians. Je n'ai pas compris votre question, mais j'ai vraiment noté l'auteur du volume. Donc, par rapport à notre entente et le fait qu'on a voulu livrer l'aide aux gens, on a réussi à livrer ce qu'on a obtenu dans l'entente. Ça veut dire soins dentaires et l'investissement pour le logement abordable. Donc oui, c'était les deux éléments importants qu'on a voulu voir. Mais on a toujours des critiques. L'approche du gouvernement sur la grande question des changements climatiques n'était pas suffisant. C'était une mauvaise décision d'augmenter les subventions pétrolières. On a dit qu'on doit les éliminer et réinvestir de l'argent dans les travailleurs et dans l'énergie propre. Donc, c'est une critique qui continue. Aussi, un manque d'investissement dans notre soin de santé. Généralement, c'est aussi une critique. Donc, on va continuer de critiquer le gouvernement et promouvoir proposer des solutions. Mais on a obtenu les éléments de notre entente dans ce budget. There's a significant increase in housing for Indigenous communities that would not have been there but for the fact that we fought for it. We fought for an additional $4 billion for housing for Indigenous communities in addition to what the government was going to do. So there is a significant increase, but I agree with you. It's absolutely not enough, but we were able to push the government to do a lot more than they were going to do. We also pushed them to deliver a for Indigenous, by Indigenous program. That's also something that was not envisioned by the government, so we did fight for that. But I want to be very clear, this is still absolutely not enough for justice for Indigenous people, but we were able to significantly increase the outcomes when it comes to more justice for Indigenous people. I'll do one more French one maybe, then I'll come to you. On va continuer de se battre pour les gens et ça veut dire aussi pour défendre l'environnement et pour faire face à la crise climatique. On n'est pas d'accord avec l'approche du gouvernement et on va continuer de dire ça. On va continuer de critiquer cette approche parce que c'est une approche qui ne fonctionne pas pour faire face vraiment à la crise climatique. Ça ne répond pas à l'urgence, au rapport du GIEC qui dit clairement qu'on doit faire plus. Donc on va continuer de critiquer où le gouvernement a manqué le coup et on va continuer de se battre pour les gens.
You talked about, you criticized more on the subsidies for oil and gas. We've seen during this war in Ukraine our vulnerability when we rely on countries like India, Russia, or other countries that are run by dictators for oil. Don't you think it's more responsible in today's age to rely on Canadian oil for Canadians instead of exporting oil, using tankers that use oil in order, and with also lines of the pocket of dictators rather than exploiting jobs that work for Canadian back out there?
What I think has really been exposed here is that our reliance on fossil fuels has two problems. One, it's got the direct impact on our environment, but also the concerns that you've outlined. So I think more than ever, we need to invest in renewable energy. We need to invest in the future of energy, which is a future where we are reducing emissions, a future where we're creating good jobs for people. And I think all of what we're seeing, both in the IPCC report and in the war in Ukraine, all really highlight how much we need to invest in clean energy.
Is there anything on your shopping list that you didn't get that really want the environment?
Yeah, I would say, well, the main issues have been outlined. We've outlined that the path of using public money to invest in fossil fuels is the wrong path. We wanted to eliminate that. We want to see workers put first. We want to see investments in clean energy, and that's a serious concern.
Just to be clear though, so if this passes the test, you guys are going to support it?
This is something we're going to support. On va appuyer.
Is it, sorry, just one last thing though, if you don't mind, because I know you love questions. It's a joke, but honestly, this is the first test of this agreement. What faith do you have in the agreement going forward, given today?
I have faith. This was we negotiated in good faith. There was good communication, and we see what was promised in terms of dental care and affordable housing delivered. There's still things that we disagree with. There's still things that we oppose, and we're going to continue to raise those concerns. But this is an example of good faith shown, and we are going to move forward with fighting for Canadians, delivering what they need, and we were able to make a big gain today for Canadians who will be able to get their teeth fixed. Thank you. Merci.